Hello, everyone. My name is Vito Quaglia, and this is A Matter of Principle. Today, our guest is Genelle Sedon. Janelle is a teacher, been teaching for 18 years in the Wilkes-Barre Area School District. She's also an co-owner of a tutoring company, C&G Tutoring, that she runs with her husband, Chris. She's an ESL teacher, and she's a well-respected and really a dynamic personality. She's someone who's thought of as an innovator, someone who has been recognized as an outstanding educator, and someone who's really going to be a guest that we can't wait to talk to. So welcome, Janelle, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Well, like I said, I saw your name. You reached out. We kind of talked back and forth a little bit, but I saw your name a couple times when I was doing some research with the chamber before I talked to Lindsay Griffin Boylan, and I was, going through some of their accolades and some of the people involved and stuff, and your name popped up a couple times. So when we did connect, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a person we want to have on. So tell us a little bit, about how you started in education and maybe a little bit about how you started your own small business.
Sure, absolutely. I actually was a journalist first prior to being a teacher, and I worked for the Times Leader right here in Wilkes-Barre. I also worked in Washington, D.C. for a short time too at stateline.org. And, I remember sitting at my news desk one day in the spring, and I just had this calling to be a teacher. And so I applied to some universities, some master's programs. I thought, okay, this will take me 10 years or so to get my master's in education, and then we'll see, where that takes me from there. And drove up to the University of Scranton, to pick my classes, and I met my academic advisor, Dr. Tata Mabugwa. And the first question she asked me was, if I was going to pursue the degree full-time or part-time. And I said, well, I have to work, it's going to have to be part-time. And she said, oh no, that's going to take you too long, and you should be getting this master's degree quickly. And she said, is there any way you could do it full-time? And I said, well, I did apply for graduate assistantship, but I didn't hear anything. I said, if I got one of those, I probably could pursue the degree full time, because it came with, a half tuition scholarship or a full tuition scholarship and a stipend. So I can still hear her heels clicking down the hall to the department chair's office. And I don't know what she said when she was in that room, but she came back and she walked me down to the department chair's office, and the department chair at the time, Dr. Deborah Lowe, picked up the phone and she called, I assume it was the registrar's office or the provost's office. And before I knew it, I was a graduate assistant, and I was putting in my notice at Times Leader and pursuing my master's degree full time.
Well, I mean, so something like that where, you have some angels on your shoulder. There's some people looking out for you, seeing that the obstacles are moved out of your path. I mean, that's huge, to start that journey that way.
Yeah, it really was neat, and then it was a 2-year master's program, 47 credit masters, which took me, like I said, 2 years. And I think I even had to take a few classes during intersession, which is between the fall and the spring semester. Mm-hmm. So it was a long, laborious program, but I did get my master's degree in elementary education. And then I wound up as a Spanish teacher for the Wilkes-Barre Area School District. Little did I know at the time that I was going to really like teaching secondary education, and I wound up really loving it. And then I haven't moved from 7 to 12 since.
So when you started off, you were before Wilkes-Barre had the jointure, into the one building. Were you at Coughlin or GAR Myers? Where were you at initially?
I actually have been at all 3 high schools.
Okay.
I'm one of the few teachers in the district. I started at GAR, where I taught Spanish and then ESL, and then I moved to Myers because I was split 1 year, and I really loved being down in South Wilkes-Barre. There was a really great principal at the time, Mr. Mike Elias, and he was able to get me there full time the next year. And then I stayed at Myers for quite a few years. And then there was a position at Coughlin that I had to take. So I went there, and like I said, I've one of the few teachers I think that have taught at all three high schools. So every single one of them is near and dear to my heart for a different reason. And I've yet to teach at our new high school though. I've been at middle school since the merger, but hopefully one of these days then I'll get to say, hey, I've taught at all Wilkes-Barre area high schools and the new one.
Yeah, not many people can say that.
No, I'm sure.
You graduated from Wyoming Area High School for your own high school career at the time. So you've been around to either a student or a teacher in several different places. So one of the things that we'll talk about is the differences and similarities in different school settings. But before we do that, tell us about how you made the jump from, teaching, and then you did that for a little bit, and then you got your own tutoring business off the ground. How did that come to be?
Yeah, I think I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. I did a lot of business programs going through high school. I had a really great guidance counselor, Rosella Fetter, and she put me into like a Wilkes entrepreneurship day. And I think my team wound up winning. We won like a $50 bond. It was pretty cool. I think we came up with a skateboard or something like that. And I went to Lycoming College. They had a Pennsylvania Free Enterprise Week, which was, again, more traditional business things. And so I was doing a lot of private tutoring while I was teaching, and I always wanted to have my own business, but I just didn't have the startup capital to get it off the ground, to have the brick and mortar. But then finally in May of 2018, I decided that I don't need a brick and mortar to be doing this. I think I could launch this without the location. And I decided that we were going to start using public libraries and community areas, and it really benefited C&G Tutoring. I think even now, being that we don't have a brick and mortar, we could kind of centralize our tutors all over and get them wherever our clients are so that no one's traveling, super far distances. So I did launch with just a Google Voice phone number. Actually, my husband was a football coach for many years, so he had a Google Voice phone number that we just used as our business line, and a Facebook page. And we did that for quite a while, and it worked really well.
So how is it juggling, the teaching, because both of you guys are teachers, the teaching and the tutoring. So you must have a pretty busy schedule.
Yeah. In the beginning, there was only three of us. So it was me, my husband, and a friend of ours, and we tutored 6 days a week. We were definitely busy. And at the time, we had two very young children. My daughter was 4 years old and my son was just around 1. So it was definitely busy. Thank goodness for my mom. Noni really stepped up into the grandparent role and helped us while we were trying to get the business off the ground. And now we've grown to just about 30 tutors. And so I stopped tutoring about 2.5 years ago just to focus completely on the business side of things because, of course, there are a lot of things that need to be done besides the tutoring, just the business aspect of it. So that's where my role is currently right now.
Now, how have you seen, someone who does it, for a living, the tutoring landscape? Is tutoring something that you see growing in its popularity or maybe its use with different students, or do you think it's always been there? I mean, I know in my career we've had really spotty kind of, tutoring options for kids where you might have a couple people here or there, or maybe a small little business like yourself, but they haven't been around, the entirety of my career. I've been in education for over 30 years. And to say that something has been around as long as I have wouldn't be true. So do you think tutoring is something that's like a service that you see more of, or do you still see yourself as kind of, just a solitary thing right now?
No, I think in our area, yes, it's very limited. That's why I started the tutoring service, because I felt there was a need. There was something missing in our area that we could not get our students ahead. We couldn't get them to get as many of those presidential scholarships, by having those high SAT scores and the whole package. So nationwide, tutoring businesses are extremely popular in metropolitan areas, and even internationally, there's nothing, people think nothing of, saying, oh yeah, you're struggling in math or science or Spanish, and they get a tutor immediately. And most of our private school students in our area or prep school students have private tutors in almost every subject area.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned your husband being a football coach, and this is something where I'm going to, sound off a little bit on. I mean, people, and I know a lot, whether they're friends, family members, close acquaintances, whatever. There's lots of people all over this area that have, no problem paying the money for their kids to be in travel teams, whether it's soccer or baseball or basketball, or, getting private coaching for whatever it is, or whether it's a private tutor for, a piano teacher or something to improve your pitching. But why is it that maybe I'm just saying this, but is there a stigma attached to tutoring, academic tutoring that you see, or do you think that's something that's just in Vito's head?
No, I think there is still a stigma attached to tutoring. I think that a lot of people think it's only for students who are deficient. I think that parents might discourage students from seeking, academic help that they need. It all comes from misconceptions, that tutoring is only for students who are struggling or failing, instead of using it as a resource, like you said, for private coaching or piano lessons, things like that. But in reality, tutoring can be beneficial for students at all levels, even for the higher achievers who want to deepen their understanding of a subject, or even those preparing for competitive exams, like the prep school entrance tests or the SATs, the ACTs. There's a lot of things out there that tutoring really can assist with.
Absolutely. And I think it's more so, as we move into the future of what education is, it's going to be this kind of like, bat utility belt where I see this again. This is just, Vito Quaglia's rant on stuff. But I think, having tutoring, whether it's, you looked at as a private coach. So if I'm a kid growing up and I think, I'm tall and I'm lanky and I'm going to be a basketball player, well, I'll be working on that, from the time I could shoot a basketball or dribble a basketball, and I might have somebody who works with me one-on-one, and I might go and try to play on this travel team or that travel team. So I think that's going to be like what you do, your service, and probably some of your competitors down the road eventually. That's going to be one tool in the tool belt. And then when you talked about entrepreneurial things, I think a lot of kids now, especially as they get older into the secondary level, for lack of a better term, branding themselves. The old fashioned paper resume is going to be replaced with like really a digital footprint of things that you've accomplished and internships you've been on, and, your LinkedIn profile, things like that. So I definitely think education is going to, I think, rapidly change, and it's exciting, but probably scary for people who, most of us don't like change. But I definitely think there's going to be some cool stuff on the horizon. Do you agree with that, or do you think I'm just a crazy old man who's going to yell at kids for, putting their ball in my yard?
I think that change has already happened.
Yep.
I see that a lot of high school students are doing, intern hours and just kind of getting their way around the professional field, to see kind of what professions that they're interested in or maybe not interested in prior to, pulling the trigger on the college level work of things. So I think we're starting a little bit earlier, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah, of course, the digital footprint, we as a public school teacher, we go over all of those kinds of things in our classes with our students about, making a positive digital footprint. Because, of course, teenagers, they think because they delete something or it goes away, that they can't see it anymore, that it's not there anymore. But, we all know that it's there forever, and it can always be found and uncovered. So definitely we go over those types of skills in the classroom and, with our clients too. I think just that a lot of students, they just learn different ways. If you think about the modern 21st century education classroom, it really doesn't look much different than it did in the past in a lot of places. So that's why I think tutoring has become a way for students to succeed outside of the classroom where they're just not getting it with a direct instruction to a class of maybe 30 students. So the fact that this is totally personalized, one-on-one, it's tailored to each student's pace, learning style, and it leads to better outcomes.
Absolutely. Now, again, services like that have a price tag. So how do you help students and their families that maybe, would like what you do, like the service, like the additional help, but don't have the financial means to get there?
Yeah, we actually started an Educate Forward program where people can give donations to us, and then we offer discounted or free tutoring sessions to those who want to be tutored but couldn't otherwise afford it.
That's
And it's been
awesome.
going really well. Yeah, it's been going really well. We've been able to do a lot of really neat things with it. We were able to help a disabled veteran earn his associate's degree. He just had like a math course that he was struggling with. And so we tutored him. We had somebody else who was trying to get into the military and they just didn't have the reading skill to get through the ASVAB test. So we strengthened his reading skills and, he was able to successfully join the military.
Now, I've done some research, to find out exactly the guest I'm going to have on. And, I've found out some things about you and everyone that I've talked to that knows you and everything I've read about you. I mean, you have a big personality and you're innovative and you're dynamic and you're successful in what you do. And, you've gotten some accolades for the things you've accomplished already. But why education? I mean, somebody with your desire to work hard and to be successful and to communicate very well, you can be successful in any field. But why are you in this field? What makes this the place that you want to thrive in?
Well, it's honestly the best job you could ever have. Truly, just seeing students develop over the years and watching them, take flight into whatever future career or workforce or military that they have. There's nothing better than that to me. I know a lot of people hear, oh, you're an educator, and they're like, oh, I could never do that. But I was born to do this. This is my calling. This is exactly where I am supposed to be. I just love being in the classroom with the students and doing innovative learning projects, community service projects. All of that stuff is very attractive to me. It's really fun. And seeing the progress that the kids make is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that's the one area that I think education really stands apart from most other professions is you get to see that progress. You get to see where the kids are, at the beginning of the year, the beginning of the unit, whatever it is. And, you get to see them struggle and succeed along the way. And then there's that end result, you know what I mean? And then for good or for bad, next September, you turn it over with either that kid or, in a different grade level, that you work with again, or a whole fresh crop of students in front of you, things like that. So I agree as well. I'm spending my entire career in education. It's very rewarding. It's challenging at times, but very rewarding because it's never boring. It's never monotonous because you're constantly seeing that kind of progress. But usually successful educators move up the ranks and start to say, well, if I'm good in the classroom, but the next step is I'm going to go into administration, or I'm going to go into there. Are you looking towards that? Are you looking to be a principal, a superintendent, a director of curriculum, things like that down the road?
No, actually, I would love to be a motivational speaker. I've done some teacher trainings for my school district, and they've gone well. And admin just isn't an area where I have an extreme interest. That's why I have my own business. That was my next step. That was my next level. I just felt that I could reach even more students in all school districts, even across the state, because we also do virtual tutoring. So we're able to reach people all across even the United States, which I think is amazing. Mm-hmm. Like I said, with the virtual option. So opening the business and starting C&G Tutoring, that was my next level. Now that I have the experience under my belt of being an entrepreneur and an educator, the next step for me is I would love to go out, get into schools and start motivating other students because, let's face it, not every teacher that they have is motivating them. And I feel that, based on the things that I've accomplished, it will be a very inspiring story for them to hear.
Well, and one of the things that I'm going to say, born and raised in Northeastern Pennsylvania, as both of us are, I'm a little bit older than you. I graduated from high school in 1988. The demographics of Northeastern Pennsylvania have changed drastically. And one of the things that I see is, again, I've been an administrator for 25 years, and a lot of the school districts, the teachers and the leaders, don't share the same demographic backgrounds as the students. You just don't see that connection. And I think, when students walk into a classroom, if they see someone that looks like them, sounds like them, has the same background as them, that helps build a connection. And one of the things that I will, rage into the night about is successful kids are successful because they're connected to school and to the teachers. And if that connection comes from their families, surroundings and resources that they have at home, that helps build that connection. But a lot of times that's not there. So it's incumbent upon the schools to make that connection. And it's always easier if there's some kind of similarities, you know what I mean? And that's, I think, lacking in a lot of schools and probably in the country, but I mean, we just see the schools around here. And to a second point, I think I agree with you. We need motivational speakers and real life people that come into the classrooms and to the schools to talk with folks, because, the canned professional development that a lot of teachers go through, because it's there and it's convenient and it serves a purpose to check a box sometimes, but not sure how much we actually get out of that kind of professional development. I've been doing it a long time, and I could speak from experience. And, sometimes when you've been around a long time, you're a little bit freer to say things that might not get you in as much trouble because you're at the end of your career. But, yes, I think, yeah, I agree. I think getting someone like you with your enthusiasm and your knowledge base and your experience would be a tremendous asset for a district to have you come in. So off air, we'll talk about some things that we could do in the future. But I'm glad to hear that, because I think that's really refreshing that somebody the approach you're taking is cool, and I think can really help kids and teachers alike.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, being hired by Wilkes-Barre Area in 2007, and I was one of the maybe 5 minority teachers in the entire school district, where the population is, mostly minority students. Now we're up to, I think I read in the newspaper the other day, 52% Latino population. Mm-hmm. So, there's so much research out there that, students do better. They achieve more when they have a teacher who looks like them, when they see themselves in the person that they are learning from. And it took me until the college level, master's level, as a matter of fact, to have a professor who looked like me. And I never forgot that. It's something that stays with you. And, everybody needs a role model. Everybody needs somebody that they can look to and say, okay, if he did it, well, then I could do it. Or if she did it, then I can do it. And that's what I feel my purpose is, still being in the classroom, so that these students can see that their dreams are achievable and their wants are achievable and their educational goals are achievable.
No, absolutely. And I think, one of the things that stands out with with the kids who are in school today, with the students, the school age students right now, is that they're entering a world that is completely different than anything in the last 10 years, really. I mean, post COVID, things have changed dramatically on just about every level. And as exciting as things could be, it's that much easier for kids to get lost. So you're right. I mean, having those connections, we talk about relationships on this podcast all the time. I think all success is based on relationships, and, students have to, and teachers alike, have to build those relationships with their colleagues, with the students they teach, with the community members, the family members at home. And then you could overcome adversity. Without those relationships and those connections, it's a lot easier to give up and to be frustrated.
Right. Yes. That's what it's all about. Breaking those barriers. Pennsylvania, I think, had something like, the last time I checked, maybe 6% of Pennsylvania teachers were people of color. So, I want to be that role model, the example, the stereotype breaker.
Well, and the thing too is it's important And yet I think there's a duality there. I mean, it's definitely important to crash that ceiling and to make things more applicable to the reality of the students we have. But at the same time, it's the fire and the energy and the passion and the enthusiasm of the educators, which has to be there as well. I mean, you could flood the industry with whatever kind of people you want to say, whatever faith and color and background they have, but if they're not awesome educators as well, it's not going to be, it's not going to help. So I think you bring that, regardless of your background, the fire and the focus that you have on helping kids succeed is going to be, where you lead, I think, the best. Because just hearing you talk and the fact that you took the chance to start the business, which is hard to do. It's hard to, branch out and do something on your own. And, like you said, lack of a capital initially, but you said, hey, I want this. I want to do this. This is something I think is important. And you made it happen. And you grew it from a couple people to 30 some. I mean, that's outstanding. People usually don't do those things today, and they don't usually last. So, I never saw you teach, but I know that you must be an outstanding educator. Everyone, sees you teach, sees that, but you're also an outstanding business leader. It's, also. So kudos to you, my friend. I'm, again, proud to have you on here as a guest, but I think you're doing wonderful things. And I'd like to see you replicate, make little mini me's everywhere. There should be a whole bunch of Janelles around, to lead all over Northeast PA. Have you been out there, out and about as a speaker, a motivational speaker yet? Have you, planted some seeds?
Yeah, I did. I had the opportunity to speak for one of the school board members' churches up in Dixon City, the Shiloh Baptist Church. Shout out to everyone there. They had me as their speaker for Women's Day, and it was a great experience. I've also spoken at the Greater Wyoming Valley Chamber of Commerce's DEI conference, and that went well. But yeah, I just signed up not too long ago to put my profile on I Need a Speaker. So I'm just waiting to hear. So hopefully, it will happen soon. You have to believe it. Otherwise, yes. You have to believe it's going to happen. And I know it will.
You have to speak it into existence. Absolutely. And positive energy is everything. It's very contagious. Now,
absolutely.
So for somebody who's usually successful at something, there had to be, that prime mover, that mentor, a group of mentors that kind of, help them figure out this is what I should be doing. Along the way, you've probably have several of these folks. So I don't want to, have you have a list of 30 some, but anybody that you could recall that kind of stands out as, people along your journey that have made, helped shape you into who you are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to give a lot of credit to my mom because she always, believed in whatever I said, and she made me believe it too. If I said, okay, I'm going to be an astronaut, she would say, awesome, like go do it. It was always just a very positive environment. I don't know. It's funny. I'll say to her sometimes, like, how did you know, like, that I was going to do these things? And she said, oh, Janelle, you just had to know you as a kid. Like, you had your mind on something and you did it. Like, no matter what. I've always had that assertiveness and, just confidence. And, I never believed that anything could stop me. And I never let anything stop me either, and I've been told no many times. And I always think of it as a new opportunity, I guess. And as far as other mentors, there's a lot. I've had some great coaches growing up and, people from my church. Father Joseph Liano was very instrumental in always encouraging me, through my faith and things like that. But yeah, I've been very fortunate. I had a woman in Washington, D.C. Her name is Iris Krasnow. She is a very notable author, and she wrote many books, and she was a journalist for many years. And, seeing her when I was at American University doing a domestic exchange, she had 4 children, she was teaching, and she was writing books. And seeing that, like, made me realize, well, you know what? You could balance it all. You really could do everything that you want, because sometimes, motherhood can hold you back from, it takes up a lot of time from some of your professional things. But seeing Iris balance everything, I realized, I was 22 years old, and I realized then that, you could achieve your dreams if you really want them.
And that last part is so important. I mean, that's the thing, the American dream. Anybody can grow up and be the president. Anybody can grow up to do anything if you work hard enough. That's the part everyone kind of forgets or says quietly. It's anyone can be anything. That's true. Yeah, but you have to work your tail off and want it and outwork everybody else and grind away all the time, and then you'll see the success. But sometimes, you see the people that give up the first time they hear the no, or when it starts to get hard, they look for something easier. Well, that's not where success comes from. So you learned that, you had to have to get where you are today. Now, why Northeast PA? I mean, what you do is very successful. Like you said, you have, influence and connections all over the place because you could do it digitally. But why are you still here? Why is this your base? Why don't you go to suburban Philly or Pittsburgh or somewhere else? Why do you stay here in NEPA?
Well, this is my home. I'm from West Pittston. I'm a proud West Pittston native, and I felt there was a need in our area. I think we have some really awesome people in this area. When I started my tutoring service, you can't believe like different people from different industries that would reach out and say, hey, if you need anything, let us know. And I mean, I don't think you could go to suburban Philly and get that, where you have other people helping you and donating their time and wanting to see you succeed as much as they want to see themselves succeed. I think that's something that's really unique to our area. And, there's just this movement lately of small businesses and young professionals around here. And I think it's a really awesome movement, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a cultural change where, and as a jumping off point, I think, I'm hoping that some of the older folks, older generations of movers and shakers that can still help out have started to realize that, because you can take the traditional things that have worked and use that as the foundation for all these young ideas. You know what I mean? And it's a great mesh point, because there is some traditional values and connections and networks that are still around. But rather than trying to replicate and make it 1987 again, like I always say, living on a prayer is not number one anymore. But you can, see like you said, the networks that you've been involved with, especially, through the chamber. And there's a lot of folks down there that are doing similar thing, not similar to you, but having similar success. Let's say that. And I do think it's a shift in the right direction, and it's helping to reshape or reform that tired old narrative that, NEPA is a bad place. It's, the coal mines, and like that stuff is old. Like we need to forget all that, and we need to move forward, because there is this energy here, and it is a great location that you can get to any place else if you want to in really 2 hours. It's a great place to raise a family, but also because the world's flat now, you could reach out and be a successful business of any type here. So I'm really happy that, you're part of that network to really celebrate this area and to hopefully make it grow in the right way.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that just the mindset of the area has changed. Everybody gets a seat at the table if they want one, and I think that's amazing. It didn't used to be like that. I remember, going through my teenage years, and it wasn't like that. And there has been a change, and for the positive. And I think there is a group of people, a large group of people who are working really hard every day to make sure that if someone wants a seat at any table, that it's available to them. And I think that's incredible. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
And I think one of the guys who I think bridges that gap from, maybe like an older gentleman, a little bit older than me. I'm not an old guy, but Mike Lombardo out of Pittston. I mean, I hear him, I've known Michael a long time. And when I hear him talk publicly, like the idea of, regionalization and, avoiding getting caught up in the whole national political nonsense, because regionally and small town wise, there's not a Democrat or a Republican way to pick up the garbage. You know what I mean? Things like that. Like to get things done, yeah. You have to cooperate, and, you have to worry about the stuff that everyone worries about, in the kitchen. So, and Michael is smart enough to do that, to say we can get more accomplished if, Pittston doesn't worry just about Pittston. Like when businesses come in, and if he can't help them out, he says, hey, why don't you try this community or that community? So the whole Northeastern corridor benefits. And I think you're starting to see that all over, and again, that entrepreneurial idea of, the small businesses helping each other. It's not this real cutthroat wherever you're trying to, submarine your competitor so you get better. It's like the rising wave, lifts all the boats kind of thing. So it's a
Yeah, absolutely.
good time to be here.
Absolutely. When I started C&G Tutoring, of course, I didn't know the first thing really about running a successful business. And I reached out to Wilkes-Barre Connect, and Joe Boylan really was instrumental in giving me resources and places where to go. And I found myself at the Wilkes University Small Business Development Center talking to Chrissy Sassy. And, she walked me through all of the things that I would need to do to get my business off the ground. And it was just incredible that, there were people in the community, like I said, who were willing to help at no cost. And these resources that are out there and available are absolutely amazing. I did everything that was available to me, and I was able to get my business off the ground. And here, coming up almost on 7 years this spring, it's just unbelievable to me that, and truly, I have to say, if somebody wants something bad enough, they can do it. You just have to be willing to work hard and, put the time in.
So you said, the business is doing well, and it hasn't been around for a real long time, but it's been around for a few years now, several years. Where do you see it in 5, 10 years from now? Do you have a business plan that goes out that far? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, sure. What I would really love to do is get some software to where my tutors can post, their availability and their location where they're going to be tutoring at, and that a student or adult student or a parent can go on and click on, let's say we need a session from 4 to 5 on Friday at the Hoyt Library, upload the homework, and then boom, go meet the tutor, or, make it a virtual session. But I really think to have a program like that would be great, just to kind of take the scheduling part out of it. Sometimes for the teacher and the tutor, I think putting everything completely online would be really helpful for a lot of parents and a lot of students.
So if there's anyone out there listening that wants some more information about C&G Tutoring, is it cngtutoring.com? Is that the website?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. So, and again, there's a transcript that'll come, with the podcast as well. So hopefully, people, if they can't listen to everything and miss anything, they could read through it and find that kind of info. As we wrap up, I want to say, I really am impressed by what you've accomplished so far. I think it's really just the beginning. I think you get it, for lack of a better word. You have the right priorities. You have the vision and the passion and the energy to do it the right way. And you're investing in the future. I mean, anytime you do something to help out students and to help them be successful, I mean, selfishly, we're helping ourselves, because they're the generation that's going to help and take care of us when we need them the most, right? So you're kind of building towards the future. But it's really encouraging, as I'm towards the end of my educational career, to see folks like you, stepping in and really taking the reins and doing some awesome stuff. So I want to thank you for, well, number one, for being a guest on the show, but thank you for all the work you're doing. And is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to bring up so far?
No, just that the goal of, that's part of one of the C&G Tutoring goals, that we help these students, get into these colleges that they want to get into and, get their degrees, and then come right back here to Northeastern Pennsylvania and use their talents. Don't leave Northeastern Pennsylvania in the dust, because we need them here. It's a great place to live, a great place to share their talents and do business and all things like that.
Well, again, thank you. Genelle Sedon has been the guest. She's an outstanding educator and an outstanding, I believe, it was the outstanding educator, but then also you're a remarkable woman. That was the,
yeah.
So you are remarkable and outstanding in many ways, my friend. And I just want to say, thank you. And hopefully we could reach out in the future, see where things are going for you, and hopefully celebrate some more success. So, for those listening at home, this has been another episode of A Matter of Principle. Our guest has been Genelle Sedon.